Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast. As we said yesterday, as our apology for being a bit later last week, we will come to you with a double episode in the build-up to Barber Motorsports Park this weekend, and the second of our two interviews this week. And as we sort of highlighted yesterday, we've got a guest who we've never had on the show before, and that's because he's only moved over to Indy NXT this year. That's Dennis Hauger, who won the opening race of the season on the streets of St. Petersburg and is one of the firm championship favourites for the Indy NXT Championship this year. So great start to the season for him, and he's obviously won the Formula 3 Championship, got a great pedigree in Formula 2, won several races there. So great to catch up with Dennis, find out a bit about his move to Indy NXT, a bit of reflection on St. Petersburg, and a bit of a look forward to the season ahead. So we won't keep you too much longer. We're going to pass it straight over to Dennis Hauger as he talks about his move to Indy NXT. So here's Dennis. Right, we're joined by driver of the number 28 Andretti Global in Indy NXT, none other than Dennis Hauger. Dennis, it's great to have you on. Obviously, we're new to the series this year, started off fantastically in St. Petersburg, so it's good to see you in victory lane there. So I guess we'll move sort of to the start. How did your move to Indy NXT come about, and when did you sort of decide that was the career you wanted to go down instead of the Formula path?
I mean, we were looking at different options last year, and then quite early on, I was like, okay, if it's not going to be F1, which obviously was the goal, being in F2, what are the other options? And we were looking at long distance racing, Formula E, IndyCar, and I was like straight on. I think IndyCar is the best type of racing there is. So I was really keen on getting over here, and we were looking, to be honest, at different IndyCar options, like if there was any possibilities, but you don't have that sort of name as you have in Europe as well, and we don't have that kind of budget as some of the other guys bring. So going into Indy NXT was feeling like a good idea. I think it gives you sort of the time to learn tracks, how the environment works, and also just create your own name over here. So for me to go in here felt like a good idea. In the end, you still need to do the job. You still need to win. So there's always a risk. But no, I felt confident. And overall, looking back now, I'm really happy I made that choice. I'm enjoying my time over here a lot with the team and feeling at home so far. So it was definitely a good start to the season in St. Pete, and hopefully we can have a good year overall.
I recall you saying that, if you wanted, you possibly could have continued in F2. Did you consider doing that at all? And I guess ultimately, why did you decide that it probably wasn't worth doing that extra year in F2?
I got a few pretty good deals in F2, which surprisingly good deals, but it didn't really feel like there was much left for me in F2 I could do a few more years like some of the other guys have done, going into year 4 and 5 and 6. I don't think it has a big meaning. And honestly, it's a high budget, and it's a struggle to get it secured. We got a good deal, but I still feel like going into something else would be a better opportunity for me. I'm still young. I still have, the age to keep working on. So it felt like a right decision to sort of move into a new phase of my career now.
And being like us from Europe, obviously the general motorsport fan base is mainly orientated towards Formula 1. So was IndyCar something you ever watched when you were younger? Do you have any memories of it, or is it only something you sort of started to become accustomed to in recent years?
Definitely picked up in the last few years, but when I was a kid, I was always watching NASCAR and IndyCar, especially Indy 500, obviously. It's quite random, but I didn't actually think about it before I came over here. But when I was a kid, I was watching Jeff Gordon in NASCAR. So my first start number was actually number 24, which was his number, which didn't really cross my mind. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So that was a bit funny when I came over here. I was like, oh wait, it's 24. I've always watched that when I was a kid as well. But obviously it's growing more and more every year now. It's becoming bigger and bigger also for the European viewers. I think with the Netflix series and F1, it's grown a lot in Europe, but I think IndyCar is just making step by steps every year now, especially this year. So it's gonna be cool to see what they have for the future.
And we're obviously seeing this trend of young drivers from Europe moving over to the IndyCar ladder. So I guess why do you believe that is? And in terms of your particular move over here as well, what did you see as the big appeal of going to the IndyCar ladder and of racing in the United States?
Honestly, when I was thinking where should I go, I was just thinking like where's the coolest place to go, where I'll have, you know, the highest motivation to do a good job, and that's definitely IndyCar. It's pure racing. I think it's pure racing like you don't really see anywhere else, which I think is a really cool factor, and that's definitely feeling even more true when I'm here on a racetrack. So yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a good opportunity for young drivers to obviously try and make a living of what they love, and also at the same time, you know, race the biggest and coolest series in the world. So I think there's several reasons for coming over here, but I think the main one is just pure racing, and I think the drivers love that.
And what sort of preparations did you do then, I guess, over the winter, over the off season, in terms of getting, you know, prepared for this move? Because obviously you don't really know the tracks, you don't really know ovals, for instance. It's a different car. So what prep went into that over the winter?
A lot of training, a lot of videos, to be honest. I think I've spent like I don't even know how many hours I've spent watching videos of all the tracks. So before I even got over here, I knew all the tracks by heart, what happened in that year. So no, I've put down a lot of work just to be prepared for it. But obviously, it's a different story when you get on track. You need to do the job, and you need to be on top of things straight away. But no, it's felt pretty good. But for sure, a lot of hard preparations with the team, and it's been going really well so far with my engineer as well, Andy. He's a clever guy, and we do a lot of data work together. So that's been, I think, a part of the reason for me also coming into it so naturally.
And I know it's still relatively early days into your Indy NXT career, but what sort of early impressions do you get from not only the series, but the general racing culture in the US? You've obviously spent pretty much a whole life in an F1 paddock. So what sort of the main differences in that regard?
It felt really fresh. Like, for my mind, it felt really fresh coming over here. It was sort of like, yeah, so many new people, new faces, and a different atmosphere. And yeah, I love it so far. I think everyone here is like super passionate about what they do, and just looking at like the month of May now, the build up to the Indy 500, you can see people going crazy, like super motivation. So that's like super cool to see, and something like I think I really needed going into this season to just keep my high motivation, and it's definitely been a key factor. So no, yeah, it's a bit of a different environment. I would say a bit more chill, but still like super professional from the team side. But just like the way the sort of spectators are, and the whole sort of atmosphere around it is a bit different in its own way, I guess. So that's really cool to see.
And you were at Indy midweek, were you, for the open test last week as well? Did you kind of get to experience that? And what did you just think watching that as well for the first time?
It was fast. That was the first impression, like just watching the cars. But just overall as well on the track, I've never seen so many people on a test before. Spectators on the tribunes, and also like just on the grass with like bringing their chair, watching the whole day. Cars going around, so that was a thing I've never seen before, and yeah, that just shows. I can't wait to see how it is on a race weekend though, when we go to Indy 500, and actually see how everything looks for the first time. But I think it's something I can't really describe before I like experience it.
And you've obviously tested an oval now for the first time as well. You were quick there. So how did you find that experience? Because obviously it's pretty different to anything you've done before, I would imagine.
Yeah, very different. But it felt pretty natural, I would say. The pace was more or less there straight away in qualifying simulations. But I think the biggest thing for me is just getting the confidence to like push straight away when we get on track. And also, especially for the racing, it's a different way of fighting. You have to use the dirty air, slipstream, and sort of trying to keep the momentum. If you lose momentum, it's so easy to lose a lot of positions lap after lap. So that's a bit of a different way of thinking about the racing, but I think it will come quickly. It's just about building the experience. Obviously, we went quickest on the test in Nashville, so the pace was there. So it's just about transfer that to the race week.
It's only right we sort of reflect on St. Petersburg after your pretty dominant performance. Obviously, a great way to start your Indy NXT career. So, how do you believe you sort of got up to speed so quickly? How do you think in your first race you're suddenly so quick? And what's the adaptation been like for you in trying to get fast in the Indy NXT car in comparison to a sort of F2, F3 car?
I feel like the car has just come quite naturally to me. The driving style suits me quite well. I don't think it really did that in F2. So I was always a bit on the back foot there, struggling to really make it natural and make it just, going to the track and having that speed straight away. I think when it clicked in F3, that was the case as well, like here, where I just had the pace straight away and, then we came champions. So it feels pretty good, to be honest, like the car, everything, how it works and how the team is working as well to get me up to speed. So at the moment I'm just having a good time and working hard to try and maximize what I can control. So still a lot of races left. It's only the first race weekend, even though it feels like we've been at it for a while now with the work off track. It's still just one race weekend in, so a lot of work to do.
Did you expect to kind of come over and be this competitive and win a race straight away? Maybe coming into the season, was your goal always, right, I'm going for the title? And I guess having started so well, is there any added pressure now?
I think the goal for us, because we don't know how the budget is going to be the next year. For me, the goal was to come here and try to win it on the first season. And that was definitely not an easy task even to think about. There's a high level this year, and I think with new tracks, new car, and new tires, it's all very different. But I think, I was in my mind, that was the plan. That's the goal, to win. And I didn't think we would be like on it straight away in St. Pete, maybe like we were, but I think that shows the work we put in comes to play. And it's just nice to get it start like that. Obviously, it's not probably going to be like that every weekend, but it's going to be about maximizing every weekend as it is. And that's going to be the main thing for a championship.
So am I right in saying you've got Anders Krone on your stand, at least you did in St. Petersburg?
He was not in St. Pete, but he was on my first. He was on my first in the next test, actually.
So I guess how helpful is it just have somebody Norwegian? There's not loads of Norwegian drivers who sort of had a similar experience to you. Is it sort of quite comfortable to have someone who's got that similar experience?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, hopefully he's coming to a few more races this year. But my manager as well, Harold Heusman, he did Indy Lights actually as well, and did a few races in the States. So him as well, having that experience, obviously it's cool. But overall, I think for people in Norway as well, it's a very new world. Everyone sort of got up the hype with F1, and after the series, it's gone crazy. But I think if we get an IndyCar driver in Norway, it's gonna it's gonna blow up definitely more. So we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely cool to have people around who's already experienced it. But at the end of the day, you have to do the job on track, and that's what matters.
And just to end off on a very important note, at the start of the year, we sort of saw you growing a little bit of mullet, especially in the media day photo. So I can see it's off now. So any intention to keep that, or is that just sort of a one and done?
I don't know. I just felt like doing a mullet, to be honest, at some point. I think I did like last year and the year before that, I did a mullet for Australia, just because I wanted to do it. But yeah, I'm trying to stay clean now, trying to stay fresh. So I've got rid of it for now, but we'll see. Probably it comes back at some point.
Anyway, Dennis, that's all we've got for you. Wishing you the best of luck at Barber this weekend. You're obviously going to a very busy stretch of the season, so wishing you the best of luck and hoping to see you in victory lane again.
Thank you for the invite.
Thanks to Dennis for his time. Great to chat with him. Looking a bit towards the rest of the season, as well as obviously Barber this weekend for him. Indy NXT haven't actually raced in 2 months, so might be a bit chaotic as they will get back on track for the first time in a while. But Dennis will be one of the firm favourites again this weekend, and obviously wishing him the very best for that. A new friend of the podcast, which is always fantastic to have. You'll notice I've changed settings, by the way, people on YouTube. Spotify people, maybe less so, but you'll notice the intro, I'm here. And then we recorded Dennis way earlier when I was slightly busy, so I was on my laptop, and now I'm back at the main setup. So if you're wondering, listeners, I should say listeners, you won't know, viewers.
Well, you might sound different. You might sound.
I might sound different. Well, we'll have to find out if my laptop's. Well, it's actually my earbuds have got better quality than my microphone, which could well be the case, which wouldn't be ideal. But maybe there's an audio difference. But anyway, the viewers will definitely see it. The listeners, maybe not. But that explains why I changed the setting, because I was busy during the time respect. Well, I wasn't that busy because I had time to speak to Dennis, but I was doing something else in that time. So I'm now back at home on the main setup. I mean, I haven't been away from the setup since one of my travels at some point. So maybe Nashville was my last foreign facade.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of mine. I've not had many really. I think my was it Portugal trip, I think, in 23, and then my Mallorca trip in 24, and then one down in Cornwall as well.
Yeah, we had the interesting stint where I had to do 3 episodes in 3 different weeks in 3 different countries, so that was an experience. Just that the middle one, I was really ill. I don't know if that ever came across, listeners. I can't remember what episode it is. And then there was the episode we were recording from almost 3 continents. So, yeah, I don't think we'll ever do that again. But we'll see. I mean, one of us needs to go on holiday to South America or something and interview a driver, and we'll connect the 3 dots off again. But anyway, that's something. Calipino, quite possibly. August, or a good friend Ignacio Montenegro can come on the show when he moves over to IndyCar. So there's another option there. But anyway, we'll stop nattering.
Well, some people might be confused by that. Legacy listeners will know about Ignacio Montenegro when we randomly predicted what Argentine touring cars driver. I don't even know if he was in Argentine touring cars in the end, but we randomly predicted.
That is a very good point. New listeners of the podcast will not know about Ignacio Montenegro. He once commented on an Instagram post when we challenged him on this, saying he will be the next IndyCar driver. We're still waiting for the deal to fall through, but it will happen at some point. There's a bit going on behind the scenes. There's a bit, we will keep spirits high. I can't remember what episode that is. It's probably some driver market episode from 2023. If you're a new listener and you want to find out the origins of Ignacio Montenegro, it's also in the best of 2023 and the best of 2024 episode. So if you want all the Ignacio Montenegro content, it's there. But anyway, we really are nattering on this weekend. You can tell we've had 3 weeks of no racing because we're starting to go slightly insane at this point, aren't we? So anyway, as we mentioned yesterday to Louis, it now becomes a lot easier for us. We've got Barber this weekend, straight to the GP on the Indianapolis road course. Then we go to Indianapolis 500 qualifying after all the practice, of course. More practice for the Indy 500. Indy 500 itself. Still find it bizarre we go straight to Detroit the week after. That's probably the 1 week where we definitely need some rest. And then it's an off week. And then we can recap the last 5 weeks of on-track action we've had.
I was going to say, like, by the end of this, we're going to be begging for a break, aren't we? It always gets like that after the 500. And to be fair, the second week of the 500 is a lot less intense than the first week in some ways, because the first week's obviously like 6-7 hours of practice pretty much every day into a packed qualifying weekend as well. So, as Louis said, it's the amount of practice time you get for the 500, it tops up some. I don't know exactly what the statistic was or whether he was totally accurate with what he said, but it equates to most of the practice time that they have across the remainder of the season, which is pretty nuts, actually. But no, I think by the time it gets to the end of the 500, we're going to be kind of falling asleep at our setups a little bit. But we're looking forward to it. We are excited. This is what we live for, doing this. And yeah, we've got 3 or 4 weekends off, I think, before the end of the season now. So full steam ahead.
Yeah, anyone who ever speaks to me about the Indy 500, I just have to say it's my Christmas. Is my simple way of putting it. It is the Memorial Day Sunday of every year is one the first thing circled in my calendar.
And it's on the 25th this year as well, so we can basically just have Advent through May as well.
It's also my dad's birthday, listeners. So I've apologised to him that I'm a bit preoccupied with his birthday. So I'm also abroad that week, actually. So we'll have another foreign.
Abroad for the 500? Or...
I am abroad for the 500, yeah. So I have another foreign podcast review that week. So that's going to be fun. So anyway, I've also got to say, with both Dennis and Louis, we did talk about mullets. And we did speak about it to Connor Daly as well, actually. It's not becoming a huge thing on this podcast. It's just...
Well, you seem to be making it become a thing on the podcast.
I am. To be fair, it wasn't my idea for all of them, but Louis' hair is growing a little bit. So I just wanted to clarify there. And Dennis Hauger did actually have a mullet. On his Andretti image on the Andretti website, he's got an impressive mullet, a really good one, but he's bored of it now, so it's too serious. He's too busy shaving off his hair to save weight to win an Indy NXT title.
I will just note, actually, off the back of the interviews, and I guess it's a nice transition into Barber chat, but Louis has actually posted on YouTube the onboard of his Barber race last year that he spoke quite a lot about in Indy NXT when he had electrical issues all weekend and then surged through the field to finish, I think it was 7th, maybe 5th. He finished 5th and 7th.
It was 5th.
Okay, so 7th was the one at IMS because those were his 2 non-podium results in the entire season. But yeah, after that chat, he has actually posted it on YouTube. I don't think it's related to just because we brought it up. He was going to do it anyway. But yeah, that's if you want to watch what he was discussing on yesterday's episode, then check out his YouTube channel.
Right, we're heading to Barber, and obviously Alex Palou is still the man on form. Obviously, Carl Kirkwood's up his winning start to the year by winning on the streets of Long Beach, but Palou obviously finished in 2nd place. And I feel like I say it's about every track at the minute, but Barber is another very, very good track for Alex Palou. His career results of the track: 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 5th. So firmly goes in again as the favourite. Road courses wise, Palou has been pretty much undefeatable. Last road course, Thermal finished 1st. Portland last year finished 2nd. Laguna last year he won. Mid-Ohio last year he was 2nd. Road America last year he was 4th. So, oh dear, crazy.
It's ominous. It's ominous. I mean, because you look through the list of tracks and you don't see a track for a long while where you think, okay, he might slip up here. You've got Barber strong. Indy GP, he's been so strong. Indy 500, he's been a pole sitter. He's finished 2nd. Detroit, he's been so strong. So he's won at all of Barber, the GP. Detroit finished 2nd at the 500. Then you've got Gateway, which I always forget that Gateway is actually falling that a bit earlier this year, which is quite nice that you've got an oval race, one race removed from the 500, I guess. But then, yeah, Road America, Mid-Ohio, strong at both of those. Then you've got Iowa, where he's not been phenomenal, but again, even on these tracks where you think, okay, he's not been phenomenal, he's so strong at other tracks that it just offsets it, and he's still going to finish reliably top 10, probably top 5 in these races as well. He's certainly capable. Then obviously Toronto, Laguna, Portland, all tracks you think, yep, you can probably win that. So it's ominous. It's really ominous, and I think alarm bells are going to be ringing for everyone because, you know, he's just got off to, I think Kirkwood mentioned it ahead of Long Beach when we spoke to him in the press conference, and he said that Palou's just so good at building a gap kind of quite seamlessly, but he sometimes does it slightly later in the season. You know, you think last year after Detroit, for instance, Dixon was still leading the standings, but not this year. I mean, to have a 34-point gap on the only driver that's beaten him all season, I mean, you've only got 5 drivers, as we've spoken about before, that have finished in the top 10 every race already inside only 3 races. And Rosenqvist, 4th in points, is essentially a maximum points weekend behind Palou already, which is astonishing. It really is.
However, The caveat to that is Barber Motorsports Park has been Scott McLaughlin's stomping ground for the last couple of seasons. Last year, absolutely dominated, took the pole, took the win, took the fastest lap. Year before, he obviously won the race as well. So this is McLaughlin's best track on the calendar, and it hasn't been a very good start to the year for Scott McLaughlin. He obviously had that hybrid issue at Thermal. Long Beach was a bit better. St. Petersburg, I know, was still a good result, but it was a frustrating result, I think, because obviously strategy really let him down there. So Penske haven't had a great start to the year. Long Beach again was another very good weekend, but this is a track that they've gone really well at. All of their drivers have won at Barber before. I think they've all won multiple times. I will verify that in a minute.
I can verify that. Penske, so McLaughlin has won successive races, obviously they're two-time defending winner. Hauger won in 2011, 2012, so a little while ago, and Newgarden is a three-time winner twice with Penske.
So they've actually all won. They've all won consecutive years as well. So this really is a Penske stomping ground as well. Helio Castroneves and Simon Pagenaud have also both won the race with Team Penske. So this is the weekend they really need to bounce back. It's not been a great start to the year, as we said. Thermal was a disastrous weekend. Newgarden said that was an anomaly. However, Long Beach was better, but Newgarden seemed a bit anonymous again. Well, he wasn't. He had that seatbelt issue, which really let him down. But again, they weren't in the mix for podiums for Penske like they should be. They were in the mix for lower end of the top 10. So an important weekend for them to sort of prove they can take a title fight to Alex Palou.
Yeah, I mean, as we sit here and record, I've literally just finished writing a feature on Penske's start to the season, basically just kind of delving into, is there any cause for concern or is it more circumstantial? And I think I, at the moment, kind of lean towards the latter. It is more circumstantial. I mean, all three of their drivers have had a minimum points finish in the opening three races, which is obviously far from ideal and immediately puts you in a position where you're chasing. And I think McLaughlin is the lead Penske driver at the moment. They're all split by 11 points, but McLaughlin is the top Penske right now, is still, I think it's 73 points back, which is quite significant. But you look at all of the DNFs. I mean, St. Pete, Power, racing incident, first lap thing. I know he kind of triggered it, but it was just a bit of a checkup. Then obviously McLaughlin's hybrid system had problems at Thermal, and then Newgarden's, I suppose Newgarden didn't DNF, but his belt issue meant that I think he was classified last in the end. So that's all. It all seems a little bit out of their control, but generally I think you just look and think, you've not seen the same kind of Penske perfect execution that we're used to seeing from that team. I mean, Power, the all-time pole record holder in IndyCar, hasn't made it out of the first round of qualifying. Newgarden has only made it out once, and his best result of the season in qualifying was 10th at St. Pete. McLaughlin obviously didn't make out at Thermal, was last in his group. He made the Fast Six in the other two races, but they just haven't executed in the way that we're used to seeing. And, best result of the season's still Newgarden's third place finish at St. Pete, and even then that was kind of a race that was riddled a little bit by some fueling miscalculations. So it's just been a bit of a scruffy start to the season. I think Power, to be fair, especially the last two races, seems to have had the pace advantage over his Penske teammates, but because he hasn't qualified well, he's been in a kind of recovery mode, whereas if he'd started a bit further forward, maybe he could have kind of brought the challenge to Palou, to Kirkwood, and whoever up near the front of the field. So yeah, Penske, I mean, obviously we're used to them being the team who are most challenging Ganassi. Obviously that this season, the second in command team kind of has to be Andretti so far in the first three rounds, given they're the only other team to notch a race win so far. I'm interested to see how Kirkwood kind of follows up Long Beach as well. So yeah, Penske are the team I'm really going to be watching, because as you say, this is a Penske track. But also, Palou took his first career win at Barber, so he's by no means weak.
I'd also like to give a bit of a quick mention to Christian Lundgaard, because he's obviously had a great start to the season, and Barber's also a track he's gone up well at previously. He's finished sixth there the last 2 years, was one of his best results there last year, qualified well last year there as well. So another really good chance for Lundgaard to prove himself. Live Tyrrell McLaren has been a very, very good start, and he's already, raising the question about his competitiveness against Pato O'Ward, and or actually, are they at a very similar level on road courses? Which is an important narrative into this weekend, because Barber is also a track that O'Ward has won at. He obviously won the race in 2022. However, last year, for example, he qualified well, but he had a particularly messy race. He went off on the opening or the second lap, obviously crashed into Pietro Fittipaldi, crashed into Porsche at the end. So it was a disastrous race for O'Ward here last year, looking back on it. But the track, as I said, he's won out, he's taken a pole out, he's got a further 2 top 5s out. So it's a good track for him as well, actually. So it represents a good chance for McLaren to sort of bag a decent result this weekend. I know St. Petersburg wasn't fantastic. Long Beach was okay, but not superb. Thermal was good. So I think there's another really representative chance for them to get back in the mix as well. Andretti-wise, it's not been a huge Andretti place as Barber Motorsports Park, actually. They haven't won there in a long, long time. I mean, Herta's results in the last couple of years read 8th, 14th, 10th, 22nd, 24th. So not a good track for Colton Herta, for example. So big chance for our McLaren this weekend. Andretti probably expect a bit less. We've always seen them a bit stronger on street courses as we have opposed to road courses. So in for a mixed bag, I'd say Palou probably goes in as favourite. I'd expect Penske to be strong, but I wouldn't be surprised to see our McLaren right in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think particularly pertinent with the Arrow McLaren points and O'Ward, it feels like there's a lot of drivers in that same sort of position that have just had a bit of a scruffy start to the season. I think it just has been a perfect storm for Palou, where he has obviously completely dominated. Obviously, Long Beach lost out to Kirkwood, but he was still one of the 2 drivers that really ran away with that weekend. While you've got throughout the rest of the field, drivers just haven't had that same kind of reliability in terms of results. I mean, just doing some quick maths here, looking at the points, going back from Rosenqvist in 4th on 88 points, because you've got Palou 34 ahead of Kirkwood, who is another 12 ahead of Lundgaard, who is 8 ahead of Rosenqvist. But then Rosenqvist on 88, and if you take the gap between Palou and Kirkwood, 34 points, take that off Rosenqvist, I mean, you go all the way down to 12th in points. So there's a really close kind of gaggle there. But then you've just got that lead pack is just, yeah, I can't quite put into words how impressive this early surge from Palou is and how imperative it is for other teams to really stop him, because they are relying on him having an errant weekend, and they're relying on misfortune for Palou pretty much already after 3 races, because he's just been so perfect as everyone else. I don't know, do you get this same sense that it's just been a bit unusually scruffy from quite a lot of drivers?
Yes. I mean, there, apart from Palou, obviously, there hasn't really been anybody who's put together, maybe Lundgaard as well, actually, who hasn't really put together 3 good weekends. But that's the nature of the series. I think it's easy to sort of take a wider view of it and say, oh, no one's had a good weekend, but that's just how the series works. You go to so many different tracks, so it is so competitive. I mean, I know it's not at the front in a minute, but in the midfield and fighting for top 5s, top 10s, that you will get this because it is so tight, and you make big sacrifices for small gains. So that's just the nature of the series.
I think it actually does show as well how, again, kind of that same point, that it has been quite an inconsistent start to the season from a lot of drivers. The fact that McLaughlin, Power, Newgarden have all essentially had a non-result, yet they are still 8th, 9th, 10th in points. So,
interesting way of putting it.
But the thing is, like, we're in this early part of the season where we'll come away from Barber and the championship standings will look completely different again, because it is obviously so tight behind that lead gaggle. Just don't look too much at the standings at this point in the season, basically.
No, listen to our podcast instead, and they will be the source of wisdom and information, as always. I think we better move on to our Fast 6 for the weekend. Me and you have a habit of predicting very similarly in recent weeks, so we'll see how this one pans out this weekend. Let's hope we do a little bit better this week in comparison to Thurman and Long Beach. So we'll come back to you in a minute of our Fast 6 for Barber. Right, let's see if we do any better. I'm going to start off with Alex Palou for mine.
Well, I guess because I've got Palou as well. I'll just say Alex Palou as well.
Oh, right,
this is feeling eerily similar.
We'll see how far we get. Scott McLaughlin, the defending pole sitter.
Scott McLaughlin.
Those two are shoo-ins. I also feel like this man's a shoo-in. Felix Rosenqvist.
Felix Rosenqvist, yeah, can't not pick him at the moment.
Yeah, no, it was a fine for him. Was he made, I think he's made the fast. No, he didn't make it a thermal, did he? But anyway, qualifies really well here. Qualified well here last year as well, off the top of my head. So it is amazing that Felix Rosen, because there's a shoe in at the minute. He's not getting enough credit for that. I'm going to go for Christian Lundgaard next.
Same.
Oh, no. What have we done? Marcus Armstrong.
Same.
No, we've done it again. We've done it
Amazing.
again. We've done it again. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Willpower.
Oh, thank goodness.
He's going to break the
3
duck.
weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row. We have
So what's the
managed-
battle this week then? Power versus...
Award.
Okay.
How do we keep on doing this? This is supposed to be the most unpredictable series in the world. And 3 of the last 3 weeks, we've predicted the same 5 drivers to make the final stage of qualifying.
That's amazing. And it's not even like, we are omitting here the likes of, and maybe courtesy of your Andretti analysis, that they aren't particularly good at Barber, but we're omitting the likes of Herter, Kirkwood, Ericsson. You're omitting Power. I'm omitting O'Ward. No Newgarden. No Dixon. We're missing some pretty hard hitters, heavy hitters.
And after all that, we'll have somebody like Brina's VK end up in the fast 6. He took pole, didn't he?
He's good at Barber.
He's good at Barber.
I'm going to say he'll make the fast 12.
Will we get a caution?
Yeah. What's going to happen? What's going to cause the caution?
We're finally gonna get one after.
Yeah. What's going to cause it though?
Georgina falling off the bridge again.
Georgina's back. Georgina was there for the test. What will cause it? I'm going to go...
Rosenqvist had a really bad crash in the test, didn't he? So maybe...
Yeah. O'Ward.
Oh, not again. Can't have more Barber and O'Ward terrorism.
O'Ward will... I think he's going to qualify... I think O'Ward's going to have a shocking qualifying. He'll be like starting 24th. And he'll pile into the back of Di Francesco in the first corner.
So his Barber crash fest is going to continue from like he crashed into fourth in the last lap last year, didn't he?
Bit of last year bias there, but that's what I reckon is going to happen.
Right, I was about to say something that's going to stall, but you don't have that anymore, do you? So we'll ignore
Unless
that.
the hybrid fails.
Do you remember Newgarden had an absolute disastrous weekend last year? Because this was after the
I remember first practice.
Came out.
I remember first practice he had a massive spin, like right at the start. That was the first thing he did.
In the race, I'm pretty sure he spun a couple of times. He had a disastrous weekend.
Last year's race was pretty good at, but I remember it being one of the races of the season actually.
Rucci led for quite a bit as well. I remember on strategy.
Yeah, I remember Rasmussen had a few exploits.
It was a bit chaotic because Dixon and Rossi had an incident, didn't they?
Yeah, Rossi's wheel fell off.
Was it? Oh, it was last year. Rob had his crash at turn
Rob
1.
had a really heavy crash because his steering wheel broke.
Yeah. Georgina obviously came flying off the bridge.
God, that was a weekend, that.
And Giotto slaps it. Remember Luca Giotto slapping Georgina?
I can't believe it's a year since Giotto and Porsche and all of that. Wow.
How time flies in IndyCar, right? That feels ages ago. Getting a bit nostalgic here after 12 months of IndyCar racing. I need to give you an answer for how this course is going to be caused because I'm getting really off topic here. I am going to go for Alexander Rossi going off at turn... Is it 5 where the spider is?
I couldn't
the hairpin where the spider is. I think it's turn 5. It might be turn 4.
You're the track guru, so...
You know what I mean. Down the hill...
Yeah, I know.
Around the hairpin where you
I couldn't tell you what corner it was.
Why did Barber have all these weird ornaments? It's quite cool.
It's spunky.
Quite cool.
I like it.
But yeah, what will come flying onto the track? I didn't even know about Georgina until last year. In fairness,
There'll be a heavy gust of wind and the spider will end up on the track. I don't think that's possible. It's probably like made of metal, isn't it? But
that'd be quite cool. Drivers have to navigate around through the spider. You can overtaking opportunities. You have to go through different strands of the spider's legs.
Amazing. Hey, one thing I want to say here as well. Why don't we start predicting 13th place on the podcast?
Yeah,
we're going to start forgetting that.
I did. We always did for thingy. Remember, it's still 1-0 to me. We don't remember any of the rest of the tournament scores because we actually have to count for those ones. So 13th place, I'm going to fire straight off and say Graham Rahal.
I mean, we've had like the last couple of races. It's been Newgarden, O'Ward. I'll go for Herta.
Ooh, okay. The Barber record is going to continue for Kelton. Okay, nice.
Yeah, that's
I
my
like
call.
it. I like it. Obviously, the podium predictor tournament, we will let you know of post-race as we just send out our questions to all our good friends of the show. But I think for this week, that is all we've got time for. Obviously, a big thanks to Louis for yesterday and big thanks to Dennis for today's episode. And obviously, thanks to you, Archie, for joining me. You don't get enough credit on this podcast. Thanks for joining me this week like you do every other week.
And thanks for your work as always, Dan, as well.
2 days of editing. Don't get the limelight for this. So, anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll catch you all post-race at Barber. And hopefully, we've had a few slow races. And Barber's been a bit chaotic in recent years. So, let's hope we do get the action back on track and we're going to have a smashing weekend. But for this time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.